Okay, so I'm taking this down to get it prepped for paint. Some of you guys with Grand Marquis may have already done this, but your trim, the chrome trim right here, has a screw right here and it slides out first. Then your aluminum trim here is riveted behind your mirror. Your mirror should have 3 11mm bolts, and then you have 3 rivets to the corner, but then it is riveted further up along the pillars should you ever have to remove it. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm doing a complete color change properly. This car's had damage to it. It belonged to my family since new. And unfortunately, insurance did a hack job on one of the doors. But that's alright, because like I said, I'm doing a full recolor. So I'm preparing to take the doors off. I've got all the trim that I'm going to remove. As you see, the door doesn't set right. Yeah, $3 bushing. But that's what it's done. So I gotta fix that. I gotta do a little bit of body work to it. Nothing major, but typical fade. So I'm gonna be recoloring the whole car. And I just wanted to make this video so you guys can kind of get an idea of what to expect if you ever have to take off your trim. Unfortunately, I didn't take video of the door panel removal. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have basically your 2 screws where your pull handle are. You have those 2 screws. They're under little plastic covers on the pull handle. And then under here, you have to remove your switch panel that's on the door rest itself. So you have, prime example, this is the driver's side front. You would have your door panel, and this would be here. You have to pop this out, and then you'll see a screw here, and you have to unscrew it. And then you have a screw down here, and a screw sometimes on the sides. Okay? Sometimes, depending on what year. Mine is a 95 through 97 body. It's actually a 96 GS. Now, one of the things I'm doing right now is, as you see, I've got the wiring loose. I'm popping off all the wiring and pulling it through the door rather than pulling it through here, because there's no clip to disconnect it here on the front side. I'm not sure on the rear yet, but on the front doors, they don't have a clip necessarily right here. So I'm going to pull all the wiring out of the door. It's not hard to do, and it's not hard to follow track with. And I already removed my airbag sensor. It's this guy here. Best way to do it, because of the way it's positioned, is you squeeze this clip and pull down, and then take it apart here, because it has a clip that's backwards facing when you look at it. So see how it is right here? Over here is the clip, so you don't see it and you can't get to it well, because this slides up like this. So best bet is basically pulling this down completely. It's just a little push style tab, not a lot of give, but that's all you do for that sensor. And then I'm just basically taking out all the electrical and routing it through the front of the door to pull the door completely off, at which point I'll also be doing brand new hinge pins and bushings. And like I said, I'm doing a full recolor, so this door is getting blown apart. First thing you want to do, obviously, is take off your door panel, which I've already done. And once you get all the screws out, sorry, back to that. Okay, so once you get the screws out of your check strap, your screw right here where your panel is for your switches, and then you get your screw out of the bottom, it literally slides up. You might have to finagle a little bit. Don't pull on it too hard. But yeah, it's just a typical slide style Ford panel. I'll show you the back of it real quick. This is all you're looking at, is a slide style panel. So it just sits in and slides down when you put it in, and reverse when you take it out. Now, I took out the glass. That was one of the first things I did, but I initially took out this weather strip right here, which would be this belt molding, or this molding here. You take this out. It's got a grommet on each side. Actually, I think this one is, yeah, okay. So you take that out, and then what I do is I remove, there's another molding, here we are. This molding here, I take out. Then I take a battery, not anything big, or a jump box. I use my jump box and 2 wires, and basically unclip the motor for the window, and I just roll it down till you have access right here. I don't know if you can see it real well here, but there's access to the bolt here and to that there, should you have replaced it already. If not, you'll have to pop rivets out. So that's just something to keep in mind, and that'll remove your glass. And then after that, then I went to pulling out the rest of the weather strip in the door, as well as removing the belt trim. You have your belt molding that goes along here, like I said, held on with an 11 mil, so that 11 mil acorn nut that's black colored, if it's original. They're underneath, right here. And then the belt molding will come off. And then once you slide the belt molding off, like I said, this will all come off with rivets. The back happens to have like a black molding on the front pillar. Right here, you have a couple rivets. I don't know if you can see it that well. Lighting kind of sucks right now. But you have 3 rivets that hold on a molding like this. Okay? It basically sits down in here. Well, I'll have to open the door, but basically it sits down in there. Yeah, this way. So it would sit like this. This is how it sits inside the door, and it rivets in with 3 rivets. You got that one, and that one. So that's on the front of both rear doors. So obviously, since I'm recoloring the doors, I'm taking them completely apart, and I am bagging everything as far as hardware and labeling it. I also took out the speakers, obviously. I do that because it's easier to work with, and it allows me not to damage the speakers, and allows me to get to the connection for the mirror inside here. Because when I take the mirror out, you have to take the mirror out, you have to hold it back here and pull it up here. So you need 2 hands, and you pull it up here. There's like a clip right there, so you have to kind of spread it open. But those are your holes for the 3 11 mil bolts, which actually on these front doors, it's kind of interesting. They have just glued backing to them, and what's known as a Christmas tree, basically, or your push clip. Push style clip being this. You have that style clip. It's just a push end style clip. But that is actually underneath your door panel. So when you pop your door panel, you can remove that. And that's all that holds it, is a glued backing. Be careful not to damage this piece right here. You have a tab that helps hold it in the metal. It hooks onto the metal right here, so like kind of back behind here, so it slides in like that and slides out. So I'm just gonna use some 3M double-sided tape and replace it with a couple strips and call it good. I mean, it's not like it's gonna go anywhere, especially once the door panel's on. But this will all be removed when I go to do all the color change. I'm going to be painting all of the door on the inside around the jamb. I'm not so worried about this area because this is going to be covered by the door, but outside of this area is not covered. As you can tell, the difference in the line right here of where the door panel's been. So everything outside of it I want painted, so I'm making sure that that's all going to be clean and ready. With that said, you have your lock actuator is one of your wires you're going to have to disconnect down here. And over here you're going to have some electrical. Nothing too crazy. It's part of your latch mechanism and lock actuator. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to be removing my doors and getting this car painted properly. The reason I say properly is at one point it was damaged on the passenger side and they replaced a rear door. And you can see from this actually, rather than prep the moldings properly, they just sprayed red over them. So they just basically color matched it but sprayed right over it and didn't bother to prep it, so little by little it started flaking off. And then to top it off, like I said, the door had been replaced, but that's their job. They took the molding off, and instead of wrapping the paint around the correct edge, they still left tape and just put a taped edge. And this is paid by insurance. This was an insurance job at one point. So yeah, they did a very cheap, very crappy job. But this is the passenger rear door. Yeah. Silver door with a red paint job and hack job on the handle area. So rather than pop out 2 rivets and re-rivet the handles back in properly, they masked the handle off and sprayed the door red. So I'm not exactly thrilled about that. It just goes to show that in the auto body world, there's a lot of people who take shortcuts. Not saying, well, let me rephrase that. There's people who take shortcuts. Not saying a lot of people or, anything negative about the auto body world. I've been in auto body and I enjoyed it while I was there, but I'm not doing it anymore due to the fact of who I worked with. This being said, like I said, biggest thing is doing it properly when you paint a car. You don't want to sit there and have taped edges where belt moldings are. You don't be lazy. Laziness just brings headache later on. Do it right the first time. Remove your glass, remove your moldings, remove the stuff that needs to be pulled apart when you're doing a full color change. I got someone coming out later in the week. He's gonna go ahead and remove my windshield, front and rear. That way I get all my edges inside the windshield. That way I don't have to just, tape up here and just roll this back. Because if you see, yeah, you got space right there, but it needs to be pulled apart. So I'm going to have it pulled and do this job right. But yeah, I mean, when you do a paint job, do it right. I got to pull the back bumper. I'm going to pull the doors off. Now, mind you, I'm not a paint shop. I'm not a professional. But I paint my own stuff, and it comes out pretty damn good. I do the things I need to do properly and don't worry about half-assing shit. Here in my garage, this is where I paint. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't have a bunch of stuff in it when I do it. I mean, that's gonna be gone. That's for sure. But I do all my things right here in my garage. That's what I do. Not saying that everyone has that ability. I mean, hey, I've even sprayed in a back alley. Not recommending it, but you can do it if you are careful and you have good weather and you do it right. But spraying outside or spraying inside a garage or spraying in a booth, there's steps you take. Now, like with this, I've got a hole where the molding was. I'm still debating if I want to put moldings back on it or if I want to weld this shut. I would not, and I repeat, I would not slather it with Bondo and back it with fiberglass. That stuff is not made to adhere properly for something like this. You can slather Bondo and fiberglass and Bondo glass all over this and try to get it to stick. The thing is, it's gonna open up. It's gonna crack. The gases, as the chemicals settle, have to release, and it's gonna look like shit. So take the time, decide if you're gonna keep moldings or something. I mean, I'm not saying you have this kind of a car, but for 96 Grand Marquis, they have this. Like I said, I'm debating if I want to weld it shut or if I want to throw moldings on. Not finding many places to find reproduction moldings, and if I do the moldings, I want all of them brand new. I know I still have to buy a front bumper cover, which that should be interesting. And the back bumper cover, I'd like to find a new one, just because it's the yellow plastic that these things came with, which, if you know anything about those, you know they crumble, they're junk, and they suck. So, yeah. This will be my project for now. It's getting this back in shape where it needs to be. So, we'll see what else it has in store for me. I mean, like I said, this whole door was replaced. This car belonged to my grandparents, and it's the last thing I have of a grandfather who means a lot to me and my family, and keeping this car in the family is something that I said I was going to do. I wasn't teasing about it, but at the same token, making sure this car is done right is a big thing to me. These, just so you guys know, you have to open the back sail panel. So that means that you have to remove that piece right there around the seat belts. And then this whole panel will have to drop out just to remove these properly. They've got body nuts on the back of them. They're just a little plastic peg style with body nuts on the back. But to do this right, that does need to be done, which is something I will be doing later today.